Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack the fascinating biography of an absolutely incredible 19th century structure. We're looking at a building that defied all the odds. I mean, it survived violent mobs, deep religious schisms, chaotic changes in ownership, and just the relentless test of time. It's a structure that means the world to millions of people today, yet its origins are incredibly, incredibly humble.
And nothing illustrates the value of this building quite like this staggering number, $192.5 million. Think about that for a second. That is the exact dollar figure it recently cost to acquire this historic building in early 2024. But here's the wild paradox we're going to explore today. That massive fortune was spent on a temple originally built by a community of deeply impoverished pioneers who literally had next to nothing. So, how does a building erected by people with so little become worth so much, both financially and spiritually?
To answer that, we're going to trace the highly structured, nearly 200-year history of this landmark. We'll be looking at 1. A call to build, 2. The community effort, 3. Dedication and visions, 4. Schism and exodus, 5. A century of guardianship, and finally, 6. A new era begins.
Here is our roadmap for the journey. We're tracking the Kirtland Temple chronologically, starting from its spiritual origins in the 1830s, winding through those complex legal battles at the end of the 19th century, right up to that massive modern acquisition in 2024. I'll be your guide as we see how each of these pivotal moments shaped the very stones of this space.
Let's kick things off with our first major milestone, Section 1, A Call to Build, the origins of the first temple.
So, back in December 1832, Joseph Smith, the founder of the Latter-day Saint movement, reported a revelation directing his followers to build a house of worship, education, and order in Kirtland, Ohio. Now, what's genuinely fascinating here is the unique architectural plan they came up with to make that happen. This wasn't just your standard church building. It was designed with two main gathering spaces. You had a lower court used primarily for worship services, and an upper court dedicated entirely to education. The third floor even had academic classrooms where early church members were literally studying Hebrew. And to make everything perfectly multifunctional, the lower hall featured dual pulpits on either end, and the pews were adjustable, meaning the congregation could flip their seats to face either direction depending on who was speaking at the time. It was incredibly innovative. Which brings us to the real heart of the story. Section 2, the community effort. Poverty meets monumental sacrifice. How on earth did this impoverished group pull off building such a massive, innovative structure? Well, it was an all-consuming, all-hands-on-deck community effort. Because funds were virtually non-existent, the community had to source and create almost everything themselves. They literally built a dedicated sawmill on Stony Brook just to process their own walnut, cherry, and white oak lumber. They used Newell K. Whitney's local ashery. Men worked the standard quarry, painstakingly chiseling out massive blocks of Berea sandstone by hand. And honestly, this is my absolute favorite detail. To make the building truly shine, members donated their own personal glass and pottery. They crushed this glassware up and mixed it right into the exterior stucco. It made the original bluish-gray walls of the temple literally glisten in the sunlight.
And it's absolutely crucial to remember the women of Kirtland here, because they were making incredible contributions under the supervision of Joseph's wife, Emma Smith. They sewed the clothing to keep the laborers going, and they crafted these massive white canvas curtains. These weren't just window drapes. They were ingeniously designed to drop from the ceiling to dynamically partition those large open halls into smaller private sections for different classes. The dedication of this community was just absolute. Women worked the canvas, while the men built the walls by day and then literally stood guard against hostile mobs by night.
All of that monumental sacrifice culminated in this figure, $40,000. Now, in the 1830s, for a community living right on the edge of poverty, $40,000 was an astronomical sum. They gave everything they had, their time, their money, their labor, even their glassware, to complete this single monument.
That immense physical sacrifice set the stage for our next chapter. Section 3, Dedication and Visions, the Spiritual Climax.
By March 1836, the temple was finally ready. Around 1,000 people packed into the building for a massive 7-hour dedication service, and the spiritual atmosphere was reportedly electric. To put us in the shoes of the people who were there, listen to this primary source account from Truman O. Angell. He wrote, "When about midway during the prayer, there was a glorious sensation passed through the house, and holy angel came and seated himself in the stand." Reports just like this one, of speaking in tongues, angels, and divine presence, were rampant during the dedication period.
The climax of all these spiritual reports happened a few days later, on Easter Sunday, April 3, 1836. Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery reported experiencing a profound vision right inside the temple. They stated that Jesus Christ appeared to them, accepting the house. After that, they reported visitations from ancient prophets, Moses, Elias, and Elijah. According to the foundational texts of the faith, these figures appear to restore specific priesthood keys, which basically means various aspects of religious authority, like the gathering of Israel, the gospel of Abraham, and sealing powers. For the believers who had sacrificed so much, this was the ultimate validation of their monumental community effort. But as you know, history rarely moves in a straight line. Just as quickly as they hit this peak, everything started to collapse. Let's move to Section 4, Schism and Exodus, the quick turn of events. Talk about a whiplash. Notice the devastating contrast in just one single year. In 1836, you have the temple dedication. It's the peak of spiritual unity, shared visions, and total community triumph. But jump to 1837, and the community is absolutely rocked by the collapse of a local bank founded by church leaders called the Kirtland Safety Society. This financial ruin bred massive dissent. Former loyalists completely turned against the leadership. In fact, a faction led by a man named Warren Parrish actually seized physical control of the temple. Let's walk through how fast this unraveled. Step 1. The bank failure causes devastating economic ruin across Kirtland. Step 2. That dissenting faction takes control of the temple property. Step 3. Tensions get so dangerously high that by early 1838, Joseph Smith is forced to flee the state entirely, heading to Missouri. And finally, Step 4. The remaining loyal members eventually have to abandon Kirtland altogether, moving west to Nauvoo, Illinois. In just a few short years, the impoverished community that sacrificed everything they had to build this temple was forced to just walk away from it. So, what happens to an empty monument? That brings us to Section 5, a century of guardianship, the long stewardship. After Joseph Smith was assassinated in 1844, a long period of deep confusion set in. You can see how chaotically the building changed hands here. In the 1840s, various rival factions and minor groups are all vying for control of the space. By 1860, the legal status is so messy that an Ohio probate court actually sold the Kirtland Temple just to pay off lingering debts from Joseph Smith's estate. But then we hit a turning point. In 1874, Joseph Smith III and the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which we now know as Community of Christ, purchased a quitclaim deed. That's essentially a formal release of any legal claims to the property. To finally clear up the legal mess, the RLDS Church launched the Kirtland Temple suit in 1880. And even though the court largely dismissed the case, it didn't really matter in the long run. The church successfully secured ownership of the temple through adverse possession, meaning they legally gained the title simply by occupying and maintaining the building over time by 1901. And we really have to highlight this. Community of Christ successfully guarded, maintained, and preserved this structure for over 140 years. While other early temples were destroyed or burned to the ground, the Kirtland Temple stands today with its original stones intact, entirely thanks to their dedicated stewardship. Which brings our timeline all the way to the present day. Section 6. A new era begins. The 2024 transfer. Tying the history all the way back to that staggering $192.5 million figure we talked about at the very beginning, here's what just went down. On March 5, 2024, an unprecedented transfer of ownership occurred. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints officially acquired the Kirtland Temple from Community of Christ. Following the acquisition, the building was immediately reopened for free public tours, and it's going to be preserved as an active, globally accessible historic site. The stewardship has changed hands for sure, but the doors remain open to the world. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. How can a single building from the 1830s continue to serve as the shared spiritual anchor for multiple modern faiths today? I think it's a profound testament to the fact that the crushed glass, the hand-chiseled stone, and the massive community sacrifice of those early impoverished pioneers created something that truly transcended their time. This isn't just the biography of a building, it's the enduring legacy of a community's sheer willpower. Thanks so much for joining me on this timeline today, and as always, keep exploring the history around you.